Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Today we're shaking it up. We're talking golf, and we're talking about the 10 most important golfers to the game of golf at the moment. Doesn't matter what tour they're on. It's just whether they're important to growing the game. Who can realistically be the biggest stars, have the biggest crossover potential, and draw in new fans to the game? Geoff Fienberg is in studio. Matthew Wiley is on the line with us to break this all down. So there's no really defined parameters of what we mean by important. So I want people to smash the likes over to the channel and leave their 5 most important golfers down in the comment section, because I'm curious. Normally, I don't give a shit what people think and don't want to hear from them, but I do want to hear from them on this, because I think we're all going to have a few different takes. And Wiley, I guess I'll start with you. We can't include Tiger Woods in this because he is the answer to who is number one, right?
Okay. Yeah, I got that message from you this morning. That was a firm and fast rule from you, so we will not talk about Tiger.
So, Geoff, if you had to nominate someone who is not Tiger Woods, the most important, maybe you can look at it is it's how they are right now, but let's say they don't need to win like every major, but if they won a major, like they got elevated into a spot where they were really good, golf benefits from them being really good. Who do you think number one is?
For me, number one is still Jordan Spieth.
I'm on the same page as you.
Like it almost feels like an obvious answer once you eliminate Tiger Woods from the equation. The public seems always to be galvanized in support of him. He seems like he's endeared himself to America, and even the hardcore golf fans really enjoy seeing him on TV as much as the Gen Pop does, because it's one of the more entertaining aspects of a golf event is the discourse between Greller and Spieth. So it is still Spieth, as much as I enjoy him in regular events, but don't enjoy seeing him win majors.
So I agree, Matt, with Geoff on it being Spieth. And I think you can make a pretty compelling case for some other guys. I'm guessing most people would say Rory is the answer, but I don't know, if all of a sudden Spieth was winning majors again, wouldn't that just elevate him to being by far the biggest star over Rahm, over Rory, over Scheffler? Like, they can win majors, they can win all the tournaments, that's great, and they're still not quite as big of a star as Spieth is.
Right. By the way, what a Masters the other week, right? That was a lot of fun. Did Spieth win it?
It was long. Just remember it being really long and a lot of delays.
It was really long. No, I think, you know, I tweeted about this, that there are really 3 people that will probably forever be crowd favorites, or that get a crowd excited. Tiger, we won't mention him, Spieth, and Ricky. And it's almost like Spieth is, because of what he did when he first came out, is this untouchable presence and brand in golf. He almost feels like it's hard to describe, but not real. Like he just feels like a vignette in golf. And so, yeah, I think that, and this is without him being the player he was, but if he starts winning majors again, it's going to be, you know, it'll be unreal. So yeah, I agree with Spieth.
Isn't
100%. Ricky would be my other one too. I don't know if that's
Ricky was my number 2 as well, because like he's garbage and people still love, and he moves the needle.
Yeah, and I think that, and this is not a live thing, but you know, Ricky probably had a chance to just call it a career on the PGA Tour and take a ton of dough and go to Live Tour. I don't have that sourced, but he wanted to do it the way that he's doing it, you know, grind it out, and he's vastly improving, but there's something about him that makes him so, I mean, Tiger is bigger than the sport, but is there anyone else people connect with more than Ricky as one of the guys? Is that it with him? Is it the orange blister pack on Sunday outfit?
He's beloved. Almost like no other player is, because he doesn't have the resumes like Spieth has that just launched him. He felt like he was launched differently in this era of desperately trying to, like, being on the cover of video games with Tiger, and him winning the Players days after, when Sports Illustrated was still important, like when that was still a thing 8 years ago or whatever, winning the Players like 3 days after being called the most overrated player on tour. It's fantastic. Right. But to Matthew's point, I think a newfound respect has been gained for Ricky, and you see the journey and you see the lows. Just as to make a point of comparison, a couple of years ago, him and Jason Day were both at low points. They both, to play in the U.S. Open, would have needed to qualify. Jason Day skipped a tee time to go do a NetJets thing. Ricky played it late, played it to the end. I think missed it by a shot, and is there signing autographs in dark till every kid got one. Like, there's levels to Ricky.
So he's like the John Cena of the PGA Tour.
Probably, sure. I kind of agree with that. And you see how he interacts and how the kids still come out for him. When I was that age, you only supported winners. Right? Like, I'm at it, like, you only support winners. I'm 9 years old. My favorite baseball player is Jose Canseco. My favorite hockey player is Wayne Gretzky.
Like the Maple Leafs growing up?
Yep.
They're not winners. They don't even want to win.
But I didn't start liking the Leafs till I was a little older. When I was really young, I just liked Wayne Gretzky.
But who do they like the most of the Leafs, us growing up, early 90s? It was Doug Gilmour.
Yeah,
why?
And then,
or Wendell Clark. They brought their lunch pail to work, right? Ricky is not your traditional country club. That's how I was a started golfer. I mean, he was a skater kid from California, right? And the thing about him is he has a lot of guts. Like, he's creative. He's not your traditionally trained country club, like I said, golfer. And it's almost like a Bubba, who was vastly popular when he was on tour, right? And he didn't have the personality Ricky did, but Bubba was, insanely popular because he didn't come from much. He kind of crafted his own homegrown swing, and he had a ton of guts. Yeah. And that's America, baby.
And even getting like the pink driver head was like a big thing in golf.
Oh, sure. And I mean, if all of us, Bubba's probably too old now, but I had Bubba on my short list.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden, like, he wins a major out of nowhere, it's like Bubba Watson would become a legitimately big star again. Even though he's on the LIV Tour, he wouldn't get all that press, but people would talk about him. Like, if, for example, Mito Pereira wins a major or Bubba Watson wins a major, like, mainstream media will pick up that, like, Bubba did something great, whereas they're just not even going to pay attention. Like, hey, Mito, yeah, that's great, man. Good for you. We'll see you at the majors for the next few years. But there's no extra level to whether or not he wins or he gets more articles written about him. It's funny, though, because with Spieth and Ricky, like, they're just two dudes that are, like, my size. Like, they're not these overwhelming forces. And I know that Tiger isn't as big as maybe people think he is, but he seems like a really imposing figure. Like, Phil is a big guy. Dustin Johnson is a big guy. Brooks is a big guy. These are two tiny little guys. So maybe that there is something that people can empathize and see themselves in them. I just think it's funny that you have Spieth and you have Ricky, but none of this conversation translates whatsoever to Justin Thomas.
But
you could always take steroids if you want to get bigger.
You could, but you get, like, wider when you're my size. You don't get taller.
Unfortunately, it's a conversation we're going to have. And as you said, Bubba, I thought about Bubba long and hard when coming up with my 10. But also, like, the parameters, you skew them a bit, and Bubba fits perfectly in this list, and you skew them a little otherwise, and he doesn't fit perfectly. So you could find a place for him. And Spieth's charm is that there's these everyman moments in golf. Like, he doesn't do it like Scheffler and Rahm and overpower a course.
But he kind of does it like Scheffler, though. Like, Scheffler just seems like the really good Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, but not like the tee to green. Like, Scheffler, what's amazing about him is his tee to green dominance in combination with these Spiethian hands around the green. It's like this package we've never seen. Spieth felt like he made it look so much harder than the other guys with 3 majors. Or like it that dominating a window. Brooks won 4 majors in a snap, but he made it look so much easier in those events, say, than Spieth does.
And like Rory did when he won the 4 majors. It's like, well, he's probably going to win 20 majors based on this play. And every time that Spieth won, it was like, except for the Masters.
And it's also about
the Masters was dominant. And even before the Masters, those 2 Masters. And he did have a run of dominance. And the great thing about Spieth is, like, that incident with Kuchar at the Open where he does take a time that still bothers me to this day, and he saves that bogey, and then a par 3, like a hole later, he sticks it.
And then he makes the 50-foot putt. It's like, oh, Jesus. Ripping our hearts out. What were you gonna say, Wiley?
I think that's the key to being so transcendent is you have one of those moments that makes you an icon in golf, that where you put your guts on the line and like the Spieth did, like Geoff just referred to at the Open, like that's embellished in people's minds forever. People will connect to that, like, you know, the shot of a lifetime, better than most with Tiger, or, you know, his shot on 16 at Augusta, where Vern Lundquist called it. Like that stuff almost becomes like a movie to us, and so you're constantly connected to them for that story forever. So I think that's part of it, right? You know, Bubba in the playoff against Louis. I think it was Louis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, like, what qualifies like a moment like that? Because you just pointed out all the ones that you can remember that point to these guys and becoming icons. Like, I remember huge shots, and they just kind of go by the wayside. Like, Sergio's not likable. But that Sergio shot at, the 99 PGA Championship around the tree, like, that's an iconic shot.
Iconic shot.
But
Ricky at the Players.
Ricky at the Players is one. Adam Scott's putt to win the Masters. Rahm's back-to-back putts at Torrey Pines to win the U.S. Open. They just don't seem to stick in the same way, though.
Right. Yeah, and I think that you could probably say Rahm is, you know, you've got sort of the villain cast and then the sort of faces and good guy cast. I think, you know, Rahm sort of teeters on both sides potentially. I don't know. I mean, Ricky forever is a good guy, right? Spieth, the same thing.
Yeah, heel Ricky would have been fun though. Like Live Tour Ricky, if all of a sudden like he was good, you'd be like, oh, here comes Ricky. Although he started how much money? How much money do you think he would have been offered if he went to Live versus like the other guys?
40 to 50 million. Don't you think?
I feel like it would have. If that was the case, I can see why he didn't go. Because if Ricky does somehow turn it around and get good again, and he's contending in majors, his sponsorship upside versus all of the other Live guys that went, it's non-existent versus those other guys. Like when Phil and Tiger were making like $70 million a year in endorsements, Ricky's a guy who could be at that level if he was as successful as not necessarily Tiger, but at least what Phil was doing for 4 years.
And I believe that was a big thing. In those rumors, the speculation that Ricky was going, the other side of it was there was like a big Puma side of the coin. There was reports that if he went, he would probably have to leave that behind. And I don't know whether it's a lifetime deal or whatever he's done there. And in this way that golf's going now, where a lot of these better players of today are less marketable than some of these golf lifestyle YouTubers. Mm-hmm. And an ability to push equipment seems to be as much on some of these golf lifestyle video YouTubers than really successful pro golfers. But Ricky is one of the few exceptions. I believe he could push and move equipment like very few people could, especially to kids.
So the two guys that we've listed so far, Spieth and Ricky Wiley, they have defined personalities. And I think that's really what we're looking for in this list, because that's actually what sells. Like, you know who's not going to make this list? Patrick Cantlay or Xander Schauffele.
I was just looking at that.
I couldn't tell you anything about these guys except that they're fucking stiff as a board.
Xander's way above Cantlay. That's not saying much. That's a low floor. As I've joked with you many times, Cantlay is the personality of a filing cabinet. I don't know what you could.
Who he is, right?
Yeah, I don't know what you could do with that. Although when he was on the hot mic at the Century, like,
but he doesn't want. If Patrick Cantlay wanted to come out and overtly be a villain, I think that would be a great move for him.
Yeah, and
he's not losing his Grant Thornton sponsorship.
And he's got DeWalt now.
That seems like the biggest mismatch of anything of all time for sponsor and player.
Think you say DeWalt. He's DeWalt now.
Yeah,
and Grant Thornton.
I think that's the best brand crossover I've seen in a long time in terms of what DeWalt. Don't you? Your bag of tools. It's so easy for DeWalt. Plus, DeWalt crushes it in the tool game. I think it's absolutely a genius move by them.
I couldn't you have picked a better guy to pay? Like, I could see John Rahm as someone who builds things. I don't see Patrick Cantlay as someone who pays someone to pay someone to like mow his lawn.
I mean, he's the perfect guy for 3 hours on TV. On CBS on Sunday and a fourth place finish. But he's just on TV. He's been on TV for 3 hours and we saw 48 of the 68 shots.
Well, someone's got to drill the floorboards down for the bodies he keeps in his basement, right? You can edit that out.
No, we can't.
Let's do another one.
But
You want me to give you another one?
Yeah,
Wait, hold on. Isn't the problem now after those two? You're really going to have to fit it into certain parameters to argue. Like the next.
Well, I mean, this whole show is designed for us to sit here and argue because there are no defined parameters of any of it. Like, where does Rory fit into this? I guess is the question.
He's got to be next.
Like, but Rory, as we know him now, is defined so much about who Rory was 10 years ago. Like, what is it really with, like, the wins? The young Rory, could he be the next Tiger? He has these 4 majors at such a young age. It's a lot like when he won the Wells Fargo as a kid. Like, Ricky won the Wells Fargo as a young kid. Like, that was a spot where people always used to break through and really, like, elevate their games. And then Rory ran away with it. But, like, what's Rory's, like, defining thing now? Is that he's, like, the shadow commissioner, Wiley?
This is going to, yeah, I mean, that's not even the shadow commissioner, right? I mean, it seems like he's very buttoned up and corporate now, and I don't know how that translates to, I mean, he's a little older now, and he looks a little older than his age. I don't know how that translates to a younger audience. But if he wins a major or he wins the green jacket, and this is going to sound really stupid if he actually did, it's an entirely different, I think, realm for Rory in terms of his importance to the game. Because he's an exciting player who cares deeply about the PGA Tour and its success, right? He's sort of like the Tiger. You know, he's carrying Tiger's water now as the guy, as the man. I think there are more. I think there are younger players that, if they succeed, could be more important to the tour's younger fan base, which certainly Liv is trying to capture with this team environment. And whether or not they're slow playing and going to have a long game to try to acquire that young fan base with the team stuff, the PGA Tour needs to have 20-year-old superstars perform well. So if I were to offer another one, if you want to stop talking about Rory, is Tom Kim, right? I think that he is an intense, exciting, he's the President's Cup player with a lot of guts. He played in the practice round at the Masters this year with Tiger, with Rory, and with Fred Couples. What does that say to you in terms of how they feel about him? So I think that Tom Kim is an extremely marketable, exciting, you want to talk gutsy young player who really does it all and makes clutch putts.
I had Tom Kim number 5
same
on my list. And I think the biggest difference between the issue with Tom Kim as we know it right now is how good is he really? Now, under the assumption that he goes and wins a major, and let's say he ends up with a major championship, a tour championship, whatever it might be, 15 wins in his career, sort of like the Sergio career. Let's just paste that on to Tom Kim now as a 20-year-old.
But winning the major sooner or having...
Sooner, yeah. Like win the major within like the next 2 years kind of thing. What Hideki has done for golf in Japan is obviously huge in Japan. What Tom Kim will do for golf in Korea, although Korean golf is already gigantic, and for Koreans and Asians worldwide about golf is going to be huge. But the difference between him and all of the other Korean players that we've seen is you can market Tom Kim to an American audience where you can't with any of these other guys because they either choose to or do not speak English. Tom Kim he's an affable, fun guy. Speaks great English. You can throw him on TV, put him in interviews, put him in commercials, it doesn't matter. And that bridge is something that we've been waiting for in men's golf for a really long time. We just haven't got it.
Couldn't have said it any better. He has a personality. He can speak fluent English, and he enjoys a bit of the spotlight and sharing himself. And he's also of an age where he grew up like in this social media era, so he sort of gets it. And we're seeing that.
Like Justin Rose.
We can get to that. And it's great to have an ally like Wiley, and we both support like the full turn on Justin Rose's internet abilities over the last couple years. But Tom Kim seems like the total package in that way, and he speaks fluent English, and guys like Hideki, I firmly believe, know English, but have just like intentionally chosen, I'm going to keep the interpreter, so I just don't want to be part of your shit.
I get it, too. If you're making $20 million a year, like Hideki probably is, I don't know how much his like Japanese sponsorships are worth. I'm guessing it's an awful lot of money, along with his regular endorsements that he gets. That's just a bonus on top of everything.
He's a personal guy. We didn't even know he was married. We didn't even know when he had a kid. Like, everything is super low key.
But Wiley, if you could make $20 to $25 million a year to play golf and no one would ever ask you a question, doesn't that seem preferable?
You know, if you were to think about outside of Tiger, who was the one player that had they left, could have broken the PGA Tour, and it certainly was probably Hideki or Spieth, but Hideki certainly. And
See,
in a different way.
I don't agree with that. I think it would have
outside of North America.
I think it would have. I think it would have impacted the PGA less. I think it was more valuable for Liv to get Hideki than it would have been detrimental to the PGA Tour to lose him. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be detrimental to lose Hideki, but it would have been such a coup for Liv to get the biggest Japanese player, especially with them trying to get TV deals in all these different markets. That clinches you have Japan.
Yeah, I don't know the global TV deal with Japan in terms of the PGA Tour is my thing, right? It's probably a giant revenue stream that we don't know about, but yeah, I think Hideki definitely needs to be on this list.
Someone's going to pay Shohei $600 million next winter, and part of that is because of the money that they's guaranteed to just recoup in taking advantage of the Japan market. Hideki is
but that's also like when you think about golf versus baseball. Golf is big in a lot of different places. It's very big in Japan, but baseball is huge in Japan.
No, of course.
It's not like you have some hockey player from Japan. It's like, oh, we need to sign him to a big deal so we can sell all these hockey jerseys. That's not happening.
No, but golf is huge there, and it would be different. I get what Wiley is saying. Like internationally, losing Hideki would probably be a bigger blow than even Cam Smith maybe.
Yeah.
To the international of the game. And that might sound really weird to people, and I could be argued another way, and maybe you could twist my arm on that, but I could see, I don't think it equals Spieth because the PGA Tour would spin it like we're an American tour, life will go on. Well, Spieth would really cripple that.
I think that Hideki, like Hideki and Sam Burns, for instance, Sam Burns is a very great player. Hideki is a star, and that was cemented with, especially the Masters win. And there was talk as to whether or not he's a Hall of Famer right now. Maybe. Yeah,
I think he is.
Right. But Hideki, even to us, right, even in the no-name media people space, he's a superstar. I mean, he is one of the few on tour. So, yeah, he matters.
And the difference between Hideki and a Cam Smith in relation to, and again, I think it's more beneficial for Liv than it is for the PGA Tour to lose these people, but Hideki in particular is there's no other Japanese player who's really good. It's him. Like, he's the best by far. And there's guys coming up, there's top amateurs, but no one even sniffs his jock. At least with Australian players, there's a lot of good Australian players. Cam Smith is the best of them, but I mean, Jason Day at the Masters went off as a bigger favorite.
There's legacy Australians too.
Well,
like
Minwoo Lee
and Scott.
Do you think that Minwoo Lee has a chance to be? I just don't think he's the same sort of talent as Tom Kim. But let's say Minwoo Lee all of a sudden vaults into becoming a top 10 player in the world. He's an Asian player who's Australian and has a hilarious accent. Has a sister who's also pretty amazing on the LPGA tour. Like, is he super marketable in this sense?
100%. Yeah. I mean, to me, he reminds me somewhat of Ricky just in terms of style, long hair, kind of flair. I think Minwoo Lee is, very, very, very marked. Yeah.
Maybe this is in the vein of like when we were in school, and I don't feel old, even though we're not so old, although I feel old.
I mean, that was 20 years ago if you're talking about being in school.
Okay, so yeah, so it's like, when's the flying car coming? But people even older than us would have thought the flying car would be here by now. As golf fans, the flying car was supposed to be the China domination of the sport. That they were like growing these guys in labs like Yao Ming. So and they're just training them on simulators. And I don't know, maybe they're still coming, or maybe the system broke.
Crazy Carl Wan's not going to be the guy?
It doesn't seem like they've had anybody other than Minwoo's like range time at a PGA championship that's taken the spotlight.
That was Hao Tong.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no. If reminds me, was it Rocky 5 or Rocky 6 with Dolph Lundgren? That scared me when I was a kid.
Rocky 4.
4, yeah. No, 4, yeah, 4. That was my favorite one.
Yeah,
Russia was as great as athletes the Soviet Union was.
How is Hao Tong the biggest Chinese golfer there's been on the men's tour, at least?
Yeah, I guess.
Man, I haven't heard that name in a minute.
He won last year, didn't he, on the Euro? Or was that like 2 years ago? He came out of nowhere and won an event.
he won leading into the Masters at that
the crossover event. They're like Sergio and all the Willett that like meant you're going to win the Masters.
That's right.
For like that was years ago. He won that event though. I think he won one in like Germany last year. I think he beat Thomas Peters. Because Peters like roped it into the water because he's Thomas Peters.
I don't want to, because we really went over Rory because we got excited about Tom.
Yeah, but
Kim.
I think you could just pencil Rory into 3 in this list.
Yeah, because
that's where he is.
But I'm just saying the like, it's been so long for the major. So any major will be treated as a huge accomplishment when Rory gets number 5. And this Masters thing, as we spoke in much of the lead up to the Masters content, like Rory for the Masters dwarfs Spieth for the PGA. Even though we have Spieth ahead, and maybe one day we'll either have total Rory fatigue on this Masters thing, and the media will do a full pivot.
And in full disclosure, we're filming this before the Masters has taken place, so Rory may have won the Masters by now.
Yeah, which can kind of change a lot of this. I will say that Rory's gotten very corporate, and it's almost to the point where he talks out of both sides of his mouth on literally every issue. He reminds me of one of these phone 1-800-900 number touts that you call, and he gives one person calls, they get one side of the game, and the other person calls, they get the other side of the game. So 50% of the people are just thrilled with you, and they'll call back again. I love Rory. I stand for Rory. I appreciate his stance in golf, and his position is in that tough position, as Wiley mentioned, that he's forced into sort of this post-Tiger next guy. You're now responsible, and he's matured into in a lot of ways. But he's the biggest double talker in the face of the earth.
But because he's a double talker, and that's what he's evolved into, being the player's face and liaison to basically the PGA Tour itself. And like, as you were telling me before, and Wiley, you probably know this when you see people come into the Barbasol and, doing the corporate dinners Tuesday and Wednesday. It feels like Rory has solidified himself for anything he goes to ever to get a payday to do these corporate things, almost based on the personality he has right now.
Yeah, he's not a Team RBC guy, but I know the Canadian Open, and RBC pays him a fortune to do like 1.5 corporate gigs, which also includes showing up to the Canadian Open. Even though that's illegal, they can work it around on a corporate deal. But it's so much money, they want him to play. And that's why he keeps coming back to Canada and winning in Canada.
Yeah, all these players do that. I've heard that. That's like pretty common practice. You have the quote dinner the night before. I'm not really, and we can debate this another time. I'm not really as sour on Rory in terms of a double talker. I think he's a politician now because he has to be. I don't think he's super confrontational. Frankly, I think he gives too much credit to the Live Tour as being something that has been good for the PGA. But yeah, I mean, I think that Rory's got to please a lot of people. His fellow players. He's got to be the corporate face and perhaps leader of the tour, and then his sponsors, and then go out and play golf. So, and by the way, it was the Dubai Desert Classic. Bang. And you're right, Pat. Liao Tong won in 2018. And guess who won it this year?
Ryan Fox won, didn't he?
Rory McIlroy.
He won Dubai? He won was it Abu Dhabi or Dubai that he won?
It's the Dubai Desert Classic.
And that was the one and Willett had won that, and Sergio had won
Willett
that.
Won it. Sergio won it.
Yeah.
Rory won it. Yeah.
So good correlation on that front. So we've talked Hideki, Tom Kim. My number 4 is on the Live Tour. No one boils people's bloods like Bryson. If Bryson was just good and showed up in these majors in top 10 or top 5 or contended, he is the biggest star that Liv has. He just happens to suck at the moment. And I don't know if it's gone from him, but people love to hate Bryson the same way that they love to hate Sergio, that some people love to hate Brooks, like some people love to hate Phil over the years, Colin Montgomery,
Reed.
Ian Poulter, Patrick Reed, but he is bigger than all of them in the vitriol that he stirs up with everyone. And that is the single biggest thing that the PGA Tour is missing right now. That's why I'm always calling for Patrick Cantlay to be a villain, or if Rahm leaned into being a villain a little bit more. There are simply no villains left on the PGA Tour, and there's no bigger villain in golf than Bryson. He seems like a pretty decent
I'd say
dude.
Reed. I'd say Reed would be neck and neck with Bryson.
I'd put Brooks right there too.
No, but like people hate Reed, like actually hate Reed. People don't actually hate Bryson. They just love to root against him because he's kind of an idiot.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's just no self-awareness in terms of I mean, I really think he took his role seriously as a scientist, and I think that was the worst brand positioning for him, because he wasn't really in on the joke, and maybe perhaps people actually believed it. And you know, I tweeted about when he said Augusta was a par 67, and then he lost a ball on 3, and you know, and then he went to the Live Tour, and then sort of the science. No one on Earth believes that this. I mean, look at this analogy for what the pizza shop analogy that he gave on the Live Tour with Tucker Carlson. I mean, it should be studied by, you know, actual scientists, that analogy. So, but I mean, I agree. I mean, in terms of someone that people tune into, especially when he gained 100 pounds naturally to hit the ball 400 yards. I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off him, whether you'd liked him or not. I mean, he was sort of a circus. So we'll see how he is this week, though. Or sorry, we saw how he was.
How he was last week. But
man, what a round that was.
But he after he did the weight gain, he got the U.S. Open. Like, he hit the peak, won a big tournament, and then it all kind of, you know, fostered off after that. But I mean, you're talking about what was it? It was the November Masters that he made those comments. Like, this is a par 67 or whatever. There's like 5 Bryson things that he's done over the past 3 years that just still stick out in your mind. How many other golfers have that?
Not on the negative side like that, where people think it's
They're all
funny
on Live, the guys that do have that, to your sort of point.
Yeah, like Liv went and got every character there was.
Yeah. That was probably part of their branding, characters and past Masters champions. That was
because they needed to have the
champions dinner half.
It wasn't even the champions dinners. They needed those people in the Masters every single year, and that was the only way to do it, was go and get the former Masters champions or Open champions, because they're in forever too.
You know,
or just 60.
Something is happening right now that I would consider very polarizing in terms of how people with the deep pockets in golf feel about Bryson. And to that point, I mean, we found out at the end of 22 that his deal with Puma either ended or severed, or it ended and they had no interest in bringing it back. And as I mentioned earlier, it does seem like these golf social lifestyle influencers on the internet are better at selling equipment than pros these days. Bryson is one of the few pros that I do believe, with the whole driving mystique of it and how casuals like to go play golf, can push equipment. I don't know the insides. It doesn't seem like there is a high demand for any golf manufacturer to get in bed with him.
I think it's because he sucks right now.
Hey, Jeff, remember the 3M Open, right? Remember the Cobra, his Cobra rep who had to fill in for him as a caddy? It was his Cobra rep.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You're right.
And Cobra, I think, was from... I don't have these notes prepared, but from memory, I mean, basically they were just like, we're done with this guy. We can't deal with him. I mean, so he does have not the best reputation as someone great to work with, and he treated, I think, that caddy like shit for the next 2 days. So, you know, I think he brings a lot of it on himself in many ways. Remember the Brooks eye roll.
Yeah, but that moment at Bay Hill is probably one of the.
But there's another moment that Wiley's talking about. You're just about to bring up him trying to drive the green at Bay Hill on a par 5. Brooks and him getting into it.
The metal cleats.
Like,
right?
there's so much Bryson content that he provided for us. And the part is, now listen, if he doesn't have a title sponsor from Puma or whoever it is, or a driver sponsor, all of that is part and parcel. Not that he's on the Live Tour, it's that he sucks on the Live Tour. Right. If all of a sudden he was good again, he would get it all back.
You're right. I can't disagree
and
with
the other thing is, too, it's like, you know, in their defense, the expectations of these, because they look so much older than they are, and they peak so much at such a young age. I mean, they're in the early 20s, mid-20s. I mean, think of yourself and what if my life was on camera when I was 25. Good God, right? Just bury me in Cantlay's basement for life. I don't want to ever be seen again. That's brought to you by DeWalt. But that's, I mean, you know, these young people don't have a lot of life experience, so they're going to say dumb shit. If they're untethered.
Especially when you're that good and have actually accomplished something by 24 or 25.
Right.
Like Bryson's he was the US Am champ, but then he wins the US Open at what, age 26?
Yeah, and then he done things with only like him, Tiger, and Jack. Like had these three.
I mean, Bryson is 29 years old right now. At 27, I believe, is when Fantasy started. I almost got fired before Fantasy actually went to air because it all went to my head, and that was on a Z-level TV network, and I thought I was a real big deal.
All of us. I cringe at anything I've ever written in my life or said or done or this. I mean, I'll just, you know, even in the Tiger era, he was on camera a lot, but it's still not the level of 24/7 wall-to-wall content. We're going to record everything you say. So
you're saying,
look how long Phil got away with it.
Just if we could just like go back to the future a couple weeks, which is dangerous, and we've kind of outlined for a few reasons why. If Bryson had won the live event before the Masters
instead of Brooks,
it would have been the same situation, just different guy. Like everyone would have been like running to bet it on the Saturday.
I think that there would have been like,
or people now like Brooks can win, Bryson wouldn't have been able to win.
I think you would have had your camp of like it because Brooks has like almost like what Wiley said about Spieth coming onto the scene and getting etched into our minds, winning these majors so quickly. That Brooks and Rory are probably the biggest comp that you have because they just steamrolled majors in a very condensed period of time, and it seems like they were unbeatable. Regardless of how Brooks is playing, because we were the same idiots being like, oh, Masters, 45-1 last year when he was hurt. It's like, well, you got to bet that. It's Brooks. I mean, pick 3 guys in this field to win a major. Brooks is one of them. So he has that
and he would do it.
Yeah, and he has that built-in benefit of the doubt that he's going to be good at a major. Even when the past 3 years have shown us he is not good at majors whatsoever. Maybe he won the Masters. I have no idea. But people give him that benefit of the doubt. People don't give that benefit of the doubt with Bryson. Had he have won Live Orlando, you would have the people to say, this is great. Bryson can go and win the Masters. He's in great form. There's other people who would more viscerally come out and say, the Live Tour sucks and it doesn't matter. No one's really saying that with Brooks because Brooks won. If Bryson had won, be like, oh, what a joke. Because people don't like Bryson.
I mean, I saw a lot of the Live Tour still sucks because Brooks won, but I know.
Did you see a lot of it? Because I haven't seen any of it.
I don't know. I would still say Brooks is still as polarizing as anybody. Yeah. He gives us these glimpses. He's a guy that golf loves. Him, just anything he does gets picked up. What he did at a hockey game a few weeks ago, I had never seen, let alone a low-end pro athlete. I'd never seen someone who's accomplished what Brooks, a 4-time major champion, which makes you a Hall of Famer in any sport, go to another pro sport and heckle a player.
It's something you would see in wrestling.
Wait, and bring a prop. and they're not friends, which, like, I thought at least, okay, you're being a friend. It's still kind of a little bit much to go haze your friend when they're trying to get the playoffs, but they don't even know each other, evidently, according to Aaron Eckblad.
And all of your posse, they're all just in Adidas tracksuits.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great, I love the Brooks, the lifestyle.
He's a fan of the Florida Panthers. He wants them to win. He hates this guy. Think about all the players you hate.
I wanted Jerry Tillery to fall down a flight of stairs. So I'm guilty. But here's the thing. That's the weird part of that Brooks video that I took from it. Not like how awkward that behavior was, although you couldn't ignore it. To me, my biggest takeaway is this is a guy who has hardcore sports fan tendencies, but gets really annoyed when people who are interested in him as sports fans have questions with things that are fair to have questions for.
But the thing that people don't have questions...
I think he was absolutely obliterated.
Of course.
And he found a pylon somewhere.
Probably in like a men's room, right? Like in the suite level, there's an out-of-order bathroom.
When you face the screen, he can't see you, right?
I know, but it makes me feel better. But
By
I
the
guess
way,
it looks
should I see like a neurologist? Is everyone always this big in the middle of the screen? I feel like General Zod or something.
Yeah, but people don't watch this on a big screen. They watch it on their phone, so it doesn't seem that way.
So yeah, he clearly got, like, he didn't take that from the parking lot.
Maybe he did. I'm Brooks Koepka. I do what I want.
There's probably
No, it was a prop traffic cone. It was like one it's a prop traffic cone, right?
I don't know. It seemed like something that he took from an out-of-service washroom on the suite level.
It did seem like an outdoor traffic cone. Like maybe one that they were. Oh, he probably parks in the VIP area. So whatever, like
but
the
then you
turtle
still
of
gotta,
his crew. So he had to bring it in with him.
But then you got to go through the ticket entry and walk
What do they
into
tell Brooks Koepka? You can't bring something in. If you want to bring a
don't-
gun in, he probably could.
They take your bottle cap off when you buy a bottle of water
Yeah,
at these
they do that to
games.
Jeff Fienberg. They don't do that to Brooks Koepka.
Okay, fair. He goes in a different entrance. I kind of get it, but it's still anyhow.
It's a fucking Florida Panthers game. Was there like 3 people there?
Yeah, I think it was versus the Leafs. So it was a pretty like around the March break. So it's like all the people.
All the Canadians are down there.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. But
In his defense, it's like there are many times in my life, I'm sure yours too, that you probably would not want a camera and broadcast all over the world. It just surprises me because Brooks seems to be a cool guy, right? That he would have that lapse in judgment and whatever.
But like respect to being a hardcore sports fan, getting wasted and acting, I guess, like an everyman.
Right.
Like that's something like you always appreciate, like when someone acts differently than anyone else we see, you got to appreciate that also.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's why I think he's so. I think he's got to be in like the top 6. I have him ahead of Bryson.
I don't. I had them back. I had Bryson 1 spot ahead of Brooks, but I think you can make the argument either way because, as I mentioned, Brooks still gets that he's a major killer. Like you have to put respect on his name. He's a 4-time major champion, and if he is ever in the mix at a major, like the fact that he lost to Phil with that PGA Championship is just mind-boggling. To go back and watch.
I'm still under the belief that a lot of these Live Tour players don't have multi-year deals. That Brooks would be sort of a test the water type guy, early 30s. I think he still wants to be Brooks, right? I don't think he wants to give that title up, and I think he really kind of wants it back now. He's not. I mean, this Smash GC, he's got to say the right things contractually that he loves it and everything's great, but that's not. Come on, that's not really him. I am under the belief that at some point he would make his return, and I think the PGA Tour would really benefit from it. There are not very many people that can. That run that he had, like you said, Pat, you would go in and bet Brooks Koepka and know he would win a major. It was crazy what he was doing. So winning Brooks Koepka is good for Live Tour, certainly.
But I think there's also such a fascination with Brooks Koepka as well. Like Bright, like there's an off the course super fascination.
There's something to him actually. Listen, if you put him in the NFL, he would be concussed and need brain surgery and just be out for his life. But he looks like a real athlete, whereas a lot of golfers don't.
And he gave us that, like, I'm coming out of the tunnel like I'm playing football. Like that was sort of his attitude, and that's what sort of made the Live stuff so weird because he would. Like, I wouldn't even hold the jockstrap of, like, guys on this Smash GC team. Like, that was sort of his attitude. The I don't practice when you see me on TV is when I'm golfing, which is when I'm practicing. That whole attitude. But as we spoke about on our master show, and I give credit to Kenny Kim for sort of pointing this out on Twitter in the sense of saying, Brooks loves to give us this, like, this exterior of, like, 0 fucks given. But when you actually watch DJ in practice, you realize how fraudulent Brooks' 0 fucks given actually is.
He gives a lot of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more valuable to him to pretend like he doesn't.
Sure,
like that's a part of your brand.
100%. It triggers me, and it creates this whole discourse. And I think he's as polarizing as the most polarizing Live player.
How old do you think Brooks Koepka is?
29.
32.
He's 32.
He's 32, born in 90.
How old do you think Rory is?
Born in 87. He's 36.
He's 33.
Oh, no, I think here's the strange thing. I always get Sidney Crosby and Rory's birth dates mixed up. Sidney Crosby, 87. Yeah, he's 33.
So Rory's 33. Bryson's 29. When did Phil win his first major? 34? 35?
And he still won 6. So
He
you're
still
saying
ended
the
up winning
clock is
6.
Still here.
So if it was me and I was Brooks or Bryson in the position that they are in, you're giving up a lot of prime years to win majors and be great on the PGA Tour. But if you live under the impression, as I kind of do, that let's say you signed a 3-year deal with LIV. Well, are we even sure the LIV Tour is going to exist in 3 years?
Oh, they'll be back.
Maybe it is. But if you can go get your $100 million for 3 years and come back at 34, knowing you have another 10 really good years in you, and knowing that the PGA is going to let you back. They're not going to be like, oh, sorry, Brooks Koepka, you can never play on tour again. They might say, hey, you have to go play in this fucking Corn Ferry event. Like, okay.
They'll do what's best for business. In the same way that,
Go ahead, Jen.
In the same way that, like, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan went
all came
somewhere
back.
else to try to take you down and in some ways destroy you. Not actually, they were just getting paid. But in the end, when they were free agents, because the other thing went under, what was best for business? Them playing with us. Brooks will play with them again. I have no doubts about it.
When you get a one name, when people know you by your first name, you become sort of an icon in golf, right? Ricky, Tiger, Brooks. No one is saying, oh, what do you, God, I love seeing Kevin play. Fuck's Kevin. Tway? Nah. You mean, that's Rory. You're an icon status. So.
Unfortunately, Xander fits that mold too, but only because his name is Xander. If he was Steve, he wouldn't be in there.
Steve.
So here are some other guys I had on the list, because I think we hit all of the big ones. Like Rahm is an interesting discussion. I think he needs to be on the top 10. But here's my question for you, Wiley. How many consecutive majors would Scheffler have to win to breach the top 10? Because he's not unimportant.
I mean, I don't think he's unimportant. I think he's probably there now. He's just, you don't think so?
No.
I mean, in terms of, I guess the parameters are you a dynamic personality that, I would say that he's probably one of the few lesser people that would want to follow during the Masters, the other week. I think Homa is ahead of him.
Yep.
I think Tigala is one of the guys you need to start.
There it is. Check him off. Finau. Like, imagine if Finau won 2 majors in a year.
Right. It's tough to name a Scotty big shot moment yet.
But he's safe.
It's indelible.
He is safe.
He's like Finau. He's so safe for like corporate America.
But Finau seems fun. There's no personality to Scotty Scheffler.
You don't care.
Finau's a gunslinger. He's a gunslinger.
Yeah, you don't
Brooks
care.
is a gunslinger.
Finau might not win majors, but he's got that thing of he's on everyone's top 5 list of like invites to a party. If you're throwing a party, you want to invite Tony Finau, you invite him way before Scotty Scheffler.
Scheffler might be the most fun guy in the world. We just don't know.
I have Scheffler on my list for the one reason, and you said we could create our own parameters. Maybe in like a Roger Federer way, he's an American. Well, Federer's not American, but
he would have to be like that,
like dominant. And he is the American who I believe is exponentially more naturally talented than Spieth, despite Spieth's ability to be magic, that like actually has the ability to dominate in this moment of a really crowded golf scene. So he makes the list in the thing that if he does actually dominate golf, we love dynasties, we love dominators. That seems to sell more than anything. We saw that with the Patriots, the Warriors, the tennis. Like we see that.
Absolutely, but let's say the Warriors were someone different. They didn't have Steph Curry on their team. But they were equally as dominant. Maybe not in the same way that they were dominant. Like a big part of, listen, dynasties sell. Just like the late 90s Yankees. So when they were winning, people tuned in to watch them. But that's for your casual viewer. I think that makes sense. That's what I'm saying. I still think that Scheffler needs to win more majors in order to get there. Like his entire inclusion on this list is only tied to how dominant he can be.
Well, that's why.
If all of a sudden he's not great, does anyone care about Scotty Scheffler?
No.
Yeah, because I think the dominant guys also were either gunslingers or brash or wanted to kill you and created that excitement around being that super alpha athlete. Whereas Scheffler, he could probably be he could you could confuse him for being like Grant out of Grant Thornton, like the CPA. I don't know. I mean, he looks. I asked my kids, like, "How old do you think this person is?" Like 46. He's born in like 2000. So
I would throw Scheffler.
It's not his fault. He's just not a killer. He's just so good at everything. But you know.
Yeah, he's a killer on the golf course. I mean, I would say the same thing about Morikawa. If Morikawa was truly going to be a superstar, he has 2 majors before 24, and no one really seemed to care.
And they've tried.
They've tried with him. It
he's got a team that's corporate. I mean, his team has like gotten him out there on late nights and all that stuff. They've tried to sort of have him break through. He has not.
Whereas if Victor won a major, I feel like Victor would be a huge star.
Yes. Tommy Fleetwood, same thing. Why do we keep chasing him around forever, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's likable.
But he's the big Brit,
and
right?
he had some iconic stuff back. What's that?
Yeah.
He is the one Brit you could point to where it would be massively beneficial if he could win a big tournament.
I'd love for it. Please.
Like if you're looking for a new Faldo, I have no idea what his Tommy's personality is like in that sense. But like Faldo was a genuine star in his time. Is Justin Rose really a star? Within golf, I'm sure. Is Shane Lowry a star? Not really. Like they both have major championships, but I don't know. It's just
Cam Young.
I feel like Cam Young's in the Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns zone.
Yeah. Only that Cam Young has like a Thor bat, fucking best driver on earth.
Cam's got to win,
400 yards.
and we got to like. I'll be honest. I'm a golf. As a people watching this, we're like so deep in the weeds on golf, where I'll hear Cam Young post round interviews. I'll hear that stuff when he plays well. I'll get the sound bites from him, but America's never heard him speak. He's got to win first, right, and then he's got to deliver when he wins. In the way, like when Bubba won for the first time, I think it was the Travelers, he just started bawling. Like he couldn't even answer Faraday's question off 18 green. He's just like bawling. Right. And he's completely let his guard down, and that invites like the world in when you become a star. I guess we have that.
Sure. Like to go back to Scheffler for a second, he's like Dustin.
Not cool, not coke, not stealing
minus
wives.
The cocaine.
Like
Dustin he's non-cocaine Dustin, but like there's nothing there. He's not giving you anything. You might as well be a robot.
But I think that's part of it. Is that Scheffler is not only great at golf, but he's kind of teetotaling and he's safe and he
seems like a great dude.
Doesn't swear. Yeah, he's a great dude, but you kind of want that sort of Dustin step on your throat, and he's kind of a badass. Look at Daniel Berger. He was, he's fun to watch.
I mean, he was.
I don't know.
Does he still play golf?
No.
I don't know.
Did he join the Live Tour and we just didn't notice?
No. Maybe he took out like some amazing insurance policy.
What was that, Wiley?
Peters.
I mean, you can imagine Thomas Peters was actually, winning on tour and winning majors, snapping clubs back of his neck. He'd be one of the most popular players in the world.
I agree. It's funny you say you've never heard some of these guys speak. And I think that goes back to
I have.
No, I know that you have, but when you say something about I don't know if I've actually ever heard Cam Young speak. Ever. Because I don't listen to this crap post-round. I might read it, but I'm not listening to it. With Tom Kim, they mic'd him up in Phoenix on TV for a hole. Yeah. That's what they do with Max Homa and Ricky Fowler. And they're trying to do it with Tom Kim as well. Like, that's why he's on a different level than I think. I mean, no one is saying that Tom Kim's a better player than Cameron Young at this point in time. But if they could wish one of them was better, Tom Kim would be the answer.
Listen, I'm one of the few people on earth, and the other few might be in this room and watching the show, that when they see the MLB logo, they think of Cam Young.
Not Ben Curtis?
Well, Malnati, but I mean, like now, he's, the guy.
All right, I think we've talked about everyone who matters, Wiley.
Can we edit out the part where I called Cameron Young's driver a Thor bat, which I don't even know what the fuck that is? Thor had a hammer.
He has a hammer. I mean, there's a lot of editing. You're putting a lot of pressure on me to edit so much of the stuff.
Accused Cantley of murder. You wanted that edited?
Well, he doesn't want that edited. That's just fact. He's trying to take Robert Stack's job on Unsolved Mysteries, but he's solving them live on the Pat Mayo Experience. We didn't mention.
I think we got everyone in mind.
How about Zalatoris?
people were ready, right?
Yes.
To sort of be like
Great,
the American
great.
victor who are like ready to just love, like ready to embrace fully if they can just do something big.
Yes, because Zalatoris is someone unlike Scheffler. Like this guy performs better in the not unlike Scheffler. I'm saying he performs better in a bigger moment, but you can actually feel like he wants to kill you, and he's just that intensity, that I don't give a shit attitude. You know, he's not a huge guy, but he hits it a mile, and you know, and he's had his moments, right? We know, you know, he steps up in the majors, finishes second at the Masters, nearly wins. He won once on tour, but I think Zalatoris, I hope he's not injured long term. He's a megastar.
Is Matthew Fitzpatrick like too nerdy looking to be?
I mean, he's got to get the braces off first, and then
because he's like the boy at like that.
But he looks like he's 13 years old. That's kind of a problem.
Almost
for him.
like too boyish to be embraced. Yeah. Like at least Spieth is balding or something, right?
Yeah, like you see Spieth with his hat off, and you're like, oh, you're 70 years old. Perfect. No, yeah, Fitzpatrick wins the life game, right? Of, hey, I'm 35 and I look like I'm 20. That's great. Yeah. It's not great to sell yourself at the same time. And he does kind of seem like a nerd at the same time.
But it's true, Rolex doesn't want that. They want like a man.
Yeah. Someone who fits that definition of what Rolex users are looking for is what they want to brand that as. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I think that's probably it. Zalatoris would be interesting, though, if he just had the breakthrough. I hope he is okay. Yeah.
But wouldn't Xander be interesting with a breakthrough?
No, Xander is not interesting.
So he just tries hard, like with this, like he seems like a pretty fun guy.
Sure, Scotty Scheffler seems like a fun guy, but like if it was gonna happen, like why do we look at Finau and Victor, and we can write off Morikawa and send him to the side? Hey, it's not gonna happen.
You're right.
We're doing the same thing with Xander and Cantlay. Like they don't got it, whatever it is. They don't got it.
I think there's a lot of buckets that we've named, the iconic shots that we remember. Your stature, are you big and tall? Can you hit a mile? Your personality, are you a killer? And I think that plays into a lot of it. And Fitzpatrick is just, you know, it's just, this is a TV show, right? And so you have bad guys and you have good guys, and that's the personality you're creating. So, you know,
people might be really offended
that's it.
By how we gave very little respect to Cam Smith, which I don't disagree with, but I feel like if he was still on the PGA, this probably feel different.
Maybe, but I mean that's a part of going to live. But what was Cam Smith going to do? He won the Open Championship. That's great. Did it in your mind like, oh my God, Cam Smith?
No, but he won the Players. He won the Open. He's got the mullet.
He's
like golf is
he's Australian Justin Thomas.
But I'm saying like golf is a type of sport where like
yeah, it's a good point.
Just as an example, like Andrew Beef Johnson was a thing.
Yeah,
he was this big guy and he Arby's and it went viral in the golf circles.
Just like that weird Korean dude with the crazy swing, whatever the hell his name was. They invited him to Pebble. Like there's nothing, like the only defining feature of Cam Smith is he had a fucking mullet. That was it. Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, he had some moxie. He had some moments, but it's like that. I mean, that's like Beef is a good example I use all the time. He was not a relevant golfer, but he was still very popular. 150th image. It's
150th Open champion, like maybe the most. Like it's hyperbole, and I know it could mean nothing more than the 149 or 151, but it's a pedestal major on top of being a major. It was like a pedestal major.
How many people do you think are tuning into a PGA Tour event? Let's say he was still on tour because Cameron Smith is in the field.
Well, I don't think the tour is anyone like that. I think
Spieth is the answer to that question. That's why you see Pebble Beach and Valspar get weirdly good ratings. Why? Because Spieth is just lingering around these leaderboards.
Okay, maybe.
That's why he's the number one.
Unfortunately, I think there is, because of the parity and there's a strength, it's kind of created a lack of like, I need to not do this errand. I need to run home and watch this guy win a not major.
If Ricky was in contention of a tournament, people would tune into it.
Absolutely.
Spieth and Rory.
I think there's three guys.
Yeah.
I think there's three guys, yeah. Well, maybe four, but Ricky, Spieth, Tiger. Tiger is maybe the only one people would stop everything to watch play golf well.
Tiger is the only one that people will actively like get out of what they're doing on a Thursday morning to tune in to see Tiger.
That's right.
Shot.
Yeah,
that's right.
And if Phil was still good, Phil would be number 2. It's funny because he won a major like 18 months ago, or the hell that was. Now he's like the worst player on the. As Cuss pointed out, he's actively hurting his team on the Live Tour. Not a great captain. So Wiley, thank you for being on. You're still doing Golflandia most weeks, right?
Most weeks.
Most weeks.
I'm just floating around the golf DFS ecosystem.
We miss
landing some banger tweets.
Miss the guests, miss Bear Off, miss the longer shows.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like I'll be refreshing my podcast feed on Wednesday evenings. Like, oh, there's a 20-minute solo Wiley banger. I'll listen to this.
I like them.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age with DFS content, there's really not a lot you can add value to in terms of what people know or don't know. So you got to be short, quick, entertaining if you can. And let her rip. You guys know it. You guys make me laugh. Your Mac chicken thing. I watched you guys eat McDonald's for 7 minutes. That was entertaining.
Well, that's what happens.
Speaking of somebody who's sponsored by DeWalt Tools, that Tim Andercust, that guy's got secrets.
They come out when the cut sweats when there's rain delays, suspended golf 3 minutes into a cut sweat show.
Yeah, when you got to fill 2 hours and there's no golf to talk about, and which led to you guys doing it in the morning. Yeah.
Did you see that one guy who replied to our? So we were going back and forth in terms of who 1, 2, 3, 4, who we were ranking at the Masters, because Geoff said there are only 12 guys who can win. And some guy replied, "Oh, good. Look, 2 douchebags talking."
Oh, I did. Hey, we're all Canadian here. I mean, Wiley, I guess you're dual at this point. When was the last time you lived in Canada? Like 20 years ago?
23 years ago, 2000. Yeah.
There we are. You said 2000. It's a new millennium.
So when you said serviettes, I was like, no one knows what you're talking about.
Just like if I asked him to sit on my Chesterfield, then we'd be fine. But why is there no personable Canadian golfer? Canadian athletes in other sports that aren't hockey, be it basketball, be it whatever, they have sort of a distinctive personality. Like they tend to be bigger personalities or fun personalities. Not all the Canadian golfers are exact. They've won three separate Canadians have won on the PGA Tour this year.
That's incredible.
And they all have exactly the same personality, which is none.
The odds on 3 Canadian golfers winning an event before essentially the end of April is insane.
And no one cares.
Unfathomable.
Even in Canada, no one. Like the last Canadian golfer who seemed to have a bit of it was Dillette.
Yes.
Yeah. Nate, I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you live in the U.S., you're always feels like you're in a social situation, and your chops are tested all the time. I don't know if Corey Connors growing up in Wearersville, Ontario. It's just different, right? I mean, Canadians are just different.
They're all Kent State Golden Flashes.
I know, but you think like one of them would be hilarious or something like that. And also, if you think about
to be a successful Canadian golfer, do you realize how good you have to be considering the seasons and the lack of access you have to golf full year round? So these guys are different personalities because they have to be that good, I would imagine.
I'm actually more surprised that we haven't seen any really good like Vancouver or Victoria based golfer, because you could golf almost all year round there if you wanted to.
Yeah,
but they're all Ontario.
Yeah,
except for Hadwin.
Corey Connors may have won the Masters.
He may have, but even if he does, but like Weir won the Masters, right? And he became a Canadian like legend. He has no discernible personality except for like he dumped his wife eventually. Like he's like, here's my wine. Like Stephen Ames, who's not even really Canadian, had more personality.
Corey Connors dumped his wife?
No, Mike Weir did.
Mike Weir. Years ago.
Really?
Yeah, he leveled up.
Oh.
Well, no. That was a weird way of putting it. I guess it would have been a Leafs playoff game based on the timing. I was at the Leafs playoff game like it was a day or two after the Masters win for Mike Weir, he came to drop the first puck. It is still the like loudest, longest cheer I think I've ever been a part of in the Air Canada Center.
I could see that. It was huge. You won it on my birthday. I remember it very vividly. But
Cam had an outright.
But what did Mike Weir ever do? Like, besides winning the Masters, what else can people tell you about Mike Weir? Nothing. He's real little.
Yeah.
He drives Ubers for a living now.
He's had quite a few failed business ventures in Canada.
Has he? Yeah, but because you can sell it off his name because he's the only Masters winner
in the same
ever.
way, like Donovan Bailey is still an industry in Canada.
Yes.
That Mike Weir can essentially do the same forever.
But Donovan Bailey, good personality.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly engaging.
If Corey Connors dropped a puck at the Leafs game, would people know who he is?
With a green jacket?
Yeah, if he was wearing the green jacket, yes. If not, no.
Oh, 100%. Okay. All right.
That's strange. It's really bizarre that there hasn't been like a mega personality that you see kind of across the board, whether it be in music or film or whatever it is. Like
Joey Votto is an incredibly weird but engagingly different personality.
Exactly. So was Steve Nash.
But none of these, you have to win a major to be on like
their level. I mean, Weir was, but we're having guys that win, and you're hopefully one of them can level up to that point. But I don't know. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about Canadian golfers. At Wiley77, is it 77 for Paul Coffey, or you were born in 77?
I was born in 77.
You should have just said Paul Coffey. You could pass as 85 if you wanted to. You change that to Wiley85, I don't think anyone would bat an eye.
That was my birthday last week, so I appreciate that.
Well, happy birthday to Matt Wiley. And although you're watching this 3 weeks after his actual birthday, at Wiley77 to wish him happy birthday. At Geoff Fienberg 17 because he was born in 1917. Looks great for his age. You followed me at the PME. Smash the like. Give me your list down in the comment section as well, and rate and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!